Hello and welcome to today's video in high altitude investing. Today I'm going to be talking about Bitcoin and the total market cap. And I'm also really excited because I have Donovan from D.I.Y investing on today as well. And we're going to be talking about whether the altcoins and Bitcoin could potentially make a new low. So let's get right into this. So I'm going to start with Bitcoin today, reviewing my analysis. As you guys know, I made a video about Bitcoin very recently, discussing how it's very similar to the gold fractal. And this is actually something that both me and Donovan have been noticing and looking at for a while now. And Bitcoin has still sustained that support level since I made that video. So I'm watching the support level right here at the 382 currently and this falling wedge. I personally think that Bitcoin is going to see bullish continuation, probably something along the lines of bouncing off either the 382 or the 50% and curling back up for another high. We could always go down to even the 618, as I discussed in my last video, before curling up. But overall, the trend for Bitcoin is now on the upside. This is what we would call the disbelief phase of a market cycle. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring up the market cycle chart for you guys and show you what I mean by that. Bitcoin is very likely to see continuation on upside, even if we see dips, meaning that all dips should be treated as a buy scenario from this point on. Looking at the market cycle chart, we see euphoria, capitulation, anger, depression. And this was really depression in Bitcoin when we were at 32 and then bounced all the way up. And because of that, this little disbelief phase where the market has turned around and starts to dip, as you can see on the market cycle chart, is where we're at in Bitcoin right now. So this little area is the disbelief phase. So again, whether we dip one more time lower right here to the 618, or whether we hold support of the 382 and the 50%, Bitcoin is in a disbelief phase and should see higher highs in a continuation of its trend. I do not expect a new low for Bitcoin. And yes, I know there are people on TradingView right now that are switching to the log chart and zooming all the way out. And I'll show you what they're drawing here. They're drawing a potential for Bitcoin to do this. And yes, I do technically have this as one of my alternatives. If for some reason Bitcoin doesn't behave how a normal market cycle would after a good linear correction down 88% like that. But if Bitcoin does in fact do this, it would be kind of ridiculous. But we've got this ABC that people are drawing on the bigger time frame as a potential with the logarithmic chart. But you guys, this would basically have to mean that Bitcoin was a failed project, you know, like that's what this would imply, because Bitcoin would retrace if we take the price range tool and go all the way down. Bitcoin retrace like 93%, which is way too much for something as liquid as Bitcoin. That would not be a very good thing for Bitcoin. So I don't see this as a probable outcome for us to go all the way down that low. And if you study bubble analysis, like let's pull up, for example, what was it called? BitConnect. Okay, let's look at the BitConnect chart. Like if you want to look at like how a bubble dies, like something that's a bubble that never goes back up again, this is how it dies. It just instantly retraces like 99% in the period of a couple weeks, right? This is just, it dipped once and then it just crashed all at once really, really fast. This is something that I personally never see going back up after this type of a dip. It was just clearly a big bubble with no real use case or value inherent inside of the BitConnect chain. Now with Bitcoin, we see something completely different. Switching away from the log chart, we see a very consistent, steady drop with consolidation, bounces, healthy correction, completely healthy correction, exactly like the healthy correction that we saw in 2014, you know, and through the 2015 period. So this is a realistic, reasonable market cycle. It's not a ridiculous bubble that's never going to go back up again. It's not a BitConnect or anything like that. So that's why I think Bitcoin is bullish. And I think that the market cap is bullish as well. Currently, my Elliott wave count is that we're falling onto support for a 4-wave before we can push higher here. That could change if the support of 240 billion fails. Then we could easily see the 180, 190 range. But right now, my Elliott wave count is that we'll see a 5th wave up to the B wave on the total market cap. So that's Bitcoin and the market cap. Now, without further ado, I'm going to switch over to my buddy Donovan. I have been trading with Donovan for a long time now. He's been buying Bitcoin since basically as long as me, all back from like $450 Bitcoin. Right? Yeah, so $450 Bitcoin. So he's been around for a long time now, been looking at these cycles and can give a lot of perspective. I want to recommend that you guys check out his YouTube channel and his social media in the description box below. So we'll go ahead and switch to DIY investing.
Thank you so much to Dallin for having me on the video today. This is something we've actually talked about for a while, is me coming on and us making a video together, considering the fact that we've traded together for so long. And so it's really exciting for me to actually come on here and talk to some of you guys, considering the fact that I've just been a part of Dallin's channel for so long now. I've actually met a lot of the members inside of here in the Discord. And so I'm really excited to bring you guys this update for the altcoins today. So to start off this, I really wanted to kind of go by the question that Dallin brought up, is can we expect to see another low in some of these altcoins, or is it at least possible to see? And so today I've picked 3 altcoins that I'm excited about for this next bull run. I think that all 3 of these show a little bit of a different perspective, but overall they kind of go along together considering they're all altcoins. And so first off on the list today is going to be Litecoin. Litecoin is one that obviously has a lot of hype around it right now amongst the trading community, considering the fact we have the halvening event coming up in August. So this upcoming month, we are going to experience a halvening inside of Litecoin's market. And so the mining reward is going to get cut in half. And so based off of Bitcoin, what we've seen previously was every time we have a halvening, Bitcoin's price skyrockets and we go into a new bull cycle and we have price discovery. Now, it's only happened twice inside of Bitcoin. The next halvening is going to come up May 25th, 2020. And so we're going to be excited to see really what happens out of this next cycle with the upcoming halvening. But with that being said, Litecoin has this coming up in August. Thus far with Bitcoin, it's been a major catalyst into new price discovery. And so it's one that I'm watching on my radar. Now, with the question being asked, is it possible that we can go for another lower low? It is possible. Now, I don't want to write that off entirely as an option, but I will say that it's my unlikely scenario based off of what we're seeing with the crypto market as a whole. Now, looking at Litecoin right here, I just see looking at Litecoin right here, I see a very solid setup. That's one that is really my favorite to watch out for. Now, for me personally, I like to trade market cycles. Bigger picture market cycles and following the big picture trend are much more profitable because I can accumulate at low points before the next cycle really starts to take off. And so for me personally, I like these long-term big picture market cycles, whether it's on a weekly time frame, daily, 3-day, bigger time frames are what I'm much more consistent at in my trading. Now, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the market cycle graph. So if you don't know what this is, market cycle graph, Wall Street cheat sheet, there's a couple graphs that kind of correlate with this. You also have this one here. And so really what I'm looking out for is the fact that Litecoin's following the typical valuation of a market cycle, and it's following it very, very closely. Now, what you generally see is the takeoff period. That's where you make your trend line, things accumulate on that trend before you have the final blow off top, where everything gets very hyped. And in fact, that's what we're seeing with Litecoin. This was our steady consolidation, our growth growing on the trend line before we had the final mania phase that took us to the blow off top. We peaked at just under $400, and then we have started the bear market. Now, the thing about this that's really exciting to me is the fact that if you look at this, we did break that trend line. And if we're comparing it to the market cycle graph, what happens is once that trend line is broken, you go into the state of despair where everybody sells their coins, everybody's just super depressed over the market conditions. And so it really just leads to a great buying opportunity. Now, what we saw with Litecoin was this setup play out where we broke that trend line, and that's when we went into despair. Now, this takes us to current valuations, and if I pull up the market cycle graph, in my opinion, what I believe we're seeing is disbelief. They don't believe that this rally that we just experienced is actually going to produce a new market cycle. They think that we're headed for new lows, and so nobody's really buying. They're still too fearful of what the market is giving them. But in my opinion, this is the best time that you can buy. I mean, if we take a look back here, disbelief is really that last sell-off before we go into that mania phase. And so the fact that, in my opinion, Litecoin is in this little leg up before we do start this next cycle is really exciting to me. And so to answer that question or bring that question back up, is it possible we drop for another leg back down? And it is possible. Like, you can't write that off. You always have to have a bullish and a bearish perspective depending on what way you're trying to trade the market. And so it is possible. Like, you could drop back down. If we fell for another lower low, it would take us probably down to, $3.70. But I don't find this likely considering the circumstances with Bitcoin. And not only that, you have the halvening coming up inside of Litecoin. This to me looks like that disbelief phase where you have that first rally up. Nobody's really getting invested. They're still too fearful from the entire bear market that we just experienced. And so this is where smart money is buying the dip and waiting for that next move to come. Taking a look at the volume, I know that volume can be a little bit tricky with these crypto markets considering the times where volume is faked. But this is one of those coins, Litecoin, being around for so long, being one of the top 10 coins for so many years. These are the type of coins that you can trust a little bit more as far as your overall market sentiment and bias. So with that being said, this is Litecoin on the list. Very excited about this one. There's a few very bullish reasons to be excited. And so in my opinion, I do expect further bullish continuation to come out of this market cycle, and this is a very great buying opportunity. And in my opinion, one of the last great buying opportunities you will experience in this market. Now, next up on the list is going to be XRP. So XRP gets a lot of hate. A lot of people dislike it for the fact that it's more centralized. It kind of goes against what main Bitcoin believers follow, and that's fine. It's really not important to me. I don't care about the fundamental case for Ripple necessarily. What I'm looking to do is make money and maximize profit potential. And so by taking a look at Ripple today, I wanted to point out about 3 fractals that I'm seeing. Now, the big reason for these fractals is not that I'm expecting them to play out exactly as what they've done in the past, but the fact that these fractals that are being painted currently in the market structure are what's happened previously right before we do experience a nice significant bull run. Now, first off, we're going to be taking a look at the consolidation that happened back in 2017. This was a time where I accumulated some Ripple and was able to make a nice amount of money, about a 10x return, taking profits out of this final 5 wave of this move. Now, the big reason I bring this up is because the consolidation that happened back in 2017 is almost identical to what we're seeing currently in the cycle in 2019. So what we see, we have this major rally, we blow off and we make we top out, and then we start our retrace back down. Now, once we find the bottom of that retrace, we make this capitulation event where prices stab really low, they get bought up really quick, and then we kind of make a retest of those lows before we break out of that low bottom that we saw here. Now, what happens next is a small ABC retrace before we consolidate and go higher in this next cycle. Now, I point this out because this consolidation right here is really very similar to what we're seeing currently inside of XRP's market. What we're seeing right now, and I'll give you a couple perspectives here because it is possible we could make another lower low, and I'll tie that all together here in this update. But what we saw the cycle high, we started retracing. Once we got to the bottom of capitulation, we make our low, the dip gets bought up really quickly, and then we retest that low before breaking up and out of that. And then this takes us to our ABC retrace. And now what's happening thus far is this sideways consolidation before the next move, if we're comparing what's happening now to the previous cycles. Now, this cycle is a little bit different. We've consolidated sideways a lot longer than this last cycle. And in fact, this last cycle was a lot more bullish as far as not holding support and making higher highs. Now, I pull this up because I wanted to make another comparison, because we're seeing very similar patterns throughout the entirety of Ripple's price discovery and accumulation. So we're going to drop it back out here, take a look. Now, what we saw at the very first market cycle Ripple ever produced was a very significant rally, followed by a sharp decline, and then we see very similar capitulation, right? So I'm going to zoom in here and show you. So at the bottom of capitulation, we see that same little double bottom where prices stab, and then we come to retest that low before breaking up and out and starting the next cycle. And so in theory, what I'm showing you guys right here is the same setups that could have continued to paint out inside of Ripple. And not only just these same setups, but the fact that these setups come at the terminal end of corrections before we make a nice impulse up. So what I'm seeing currently, and I'm going to drop it to one more little fractal down in here before we wrap things up with Ripple, is a very similar consolidation. So let's compare what happened right here inside of XRP to the cycle high that we saw at about $3. So what we saw was our retrace, and then we went into this accumulation out of the bottom of capitulation. And so something that I'm seeing here is the fact that we had our cycle high, and then we went into kind of this consolidation, or what you could call a distribution phase. Let me pull up, where is it? Right here. Then we went into this distribution phase. Before prices made a little bit of a bull trap where they faked the breakout like we were going to go to new highs, and then it ended up just kind of dropping and making a stab back down at these low support levels. And so this cycle that we're seeing, or that we saw back in 2016, is eerily similar to the cycle and accumulation that we're seeing today. And so to compare another fractal, let's go through here. So we have the cycle high that took place right here at $3. We dropped down from that, and then we started that same sort of consolidation where we had the top, where we saw the top of the move, prices retraced and fell from that. We went into the distribution phase, right? And then we made our bull trap before dropping back down to retest that support. And it followed even the same exact kind of pattern that XRP did back in the day. And so if we compare the two, you're going to be able to kind of start to see that pattern play out a little bit more. Capitulation, we have the top of the breakout, prices drop, and then we go into distribution, prices drop, go into distribution, and then we make our little bull trap before falling back down onto this trending support. And so based off of this fractal, or the couple fractals that I've showed you, it appears to me that it's repeating pretty much the same sorts of patterns that happens inside of XRP's accumulation. Now, once again, to drop back to our overall question of the video, can it make a new low? And I think that it is a possibility to watch out for. Now, comparing Litecoin to XRP, Litecoin is a lot less of a probability, in my opinion, that we would see a new low, whereas XRP looks like it has a little bit more potential to do so. Now, one of the things that I talk about on my own YouTube channel with my videos is I always like to explain the fact that the more times price reacts to a given level, the weaker that that level gets. Now, with XRP, you are seeing lower highs all the way through here. You're seeing a lower high here, you're seeing a lower high here, here, and even right here. And so that automatically is going to be a little bit more bearish because you're seeing less significant rallies on the upside while prices are getting knocked back down. And then what we're seeing here is this horizontal support line that has held us. It's really just a zone. I mean, you've got support all the way down in here, but for the most part, we've bounced off of this support zone. And to me, this looks a little bit like Bitcoin at 6K. And so right now where we're at in the market cycle, we're at a very pivotal point where a lot of these alts might make another new low. Some of these alts might pop off, such as Litecoin, where I would expect that this dip to to be bought up relatively quickly in comparison. But with Ripple, we could see something play out similar to the fractal here, where we do get this nice strong sell-off before we get that spring-loaded event that takes us to new highs. And so it's hard to say exactly how far we'll retrace. We could come all the way back down to this 26 cent mark. And if we did break support, my target is 16 cents, which would take us to about right here, before we do see somewhat similar of what happened to Bitcoin back in the lows that we saw back down in here in December, where we break support at the 6K mark, make one more low, and then we break up into the new cycle high. And so XRP looks a little bit like 6K Bitcoin, but the fact that it's repeating a lot of the same bullish setups in the past makes me a little bit more bullish and have that natural bullish bias. But it is a possibility that I'm watching for the potential to drop for one more lower low. So this is XRP. I wanted to show you guys this one because it's showing a little bit of a different setup from Litecoin, whereas I expect the Litecoin dip to be bought up really quickly. XRP has the potential to drop off a little bit lower, and so it's just something to pay attention of. So next, and this is the final one on our list, if you guys have followed me on my own channel, some of you guys probably know who I am. This is one that I've been watching and I've been very hyped for a few months now. This one is called D.I.Y. This is a this is a blockchain for decentralized applications and smart contracts, similar to Ethereum, but with the privacy of XMR. So I've been very excited about this one, and we're actually at a very important point in the market structure. So the biggest reason for me being so bullish on this coin was because if I came over here and I took a look at early day XMR, you're going to see a very striking correlation between the two. So we're going to drop it all the way back in here, take it to a log chart, and we're going to see kind of what I'm talking about. Let's hide the drawing tools. So what we saw was it got added to the exchange, made a small market cycle, and then we dropped for new lows before we made our first little leg up, and then we went into the new bull cycle to follow. So D.I.Y. to me looks exactly as the same as early day XMR, where you had added to the exchange, makes the first little market cycle, and then we drop to new lows before making that first leg up. And really just the first move before we start this new bull cycle all the way back up. And so to me, this is very similar to what we saw with XMR and even Ethereum back in the day. And so this is one that I've been accumulating sub-dollar levels, and you still have that opportunity to about 87 cents. I'm really excited for this for a couple reasons. What we're seeing right now is we had this major descending resistance, and this is more of a zone. I don't like to draw one specific line because I think that one line is not the entirety of what's going on in the move. In my opinion, what you see with trading is zones, and that's what we're seeing with this trend line. This descending resistance was just this zone that had held us for the length of the bear market. But what we saw was a nice increase of volume come in, and we kind of broke up and out of that zone. So we're at a very pivotal point where if support doesn't hold virtually where we're at or in this zone, then it is possible that we could drop for a new low. I do have some targets set down here at about 40 cents, but those are not necessarily what I'm expecting to have happen. With the fact that we are getting this nice volume coming in here with Bitcoin going up, and now the dominance starting to top out in some of these altcoins, or the Bitcoin dominance starting to top out, I think that a lot of new money is going to be coming into these altcoins. And so the fact that we're seeing 3 retests of this major descending resistance, prices are now breaking up and out of that. Looks like we could be at a point of support right here. We're going to have to watch and see what the market's going to give us over the next couple weeks. But overall, very bullish setup in my opinion. This is one I'm very excited for. One of the biggest reasons I'm excited for this is the severity of the project. I mean, you have a very big blockchain project. It only has a 12-second blockchain time, and so it's very, very quickly with the transactions that are happening on the D.I.Y. blockchain. Top of that, it's an anonymous blockchain, so you get privacy. And so this is something I'm really excited for with tokens in general, is privacy tokens I think will fare very well in this next bull cycle with all of what's going to come inside of crypto with regulations and with different countries really starting to implement regulations. I think that we'll see a nice increase in some of these privacy tokens, but the fact that you can create decentralized applications on here, on top of that issue smart contracts, one of the reasons I'm so bullish on it is because it only has about 10 million total circulating supply. And so for this coin to, hit $100 and do a 100x, it only needs a small amount in that circulating supply in comparison of the rest of the market. I think Ethereum hit 100 billion in market cap. And so 100 billion is a lot to have inside of that market cap. For this one to 100x, it only needs about, maybe $500 million to do that. And so it doesn't take a lot of money for some of these low caps to really pull off these sort of major rallies that we're expecting. And so for me, I'm very excited about Litecoin. This is Monero, but I'm excited for Litecoin. I believe that we're in the disbelief phase before we see a new cycle high to come. Overall, very exciting things happening, and very excited to be able to give you guys this content today. Me and Dallin have talked about making a video together for a while, and now the fact that I'm actually on here and being able to produce this value for you guys is just very, it makes me feel really good about everything that's going on. And so thank you all so much for having me on today. I will catch you guys in the next update, whenever that is.
Hey, thank you guys so much for tuning in today's video. I hope that you enjoyed my analysis and Donovan's analysis. Me and Donovan have been working in crypto for a while now, and even longer as friends. So I was really excited to have him on the channel today. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I will see you guys in the next ones. As always, stay profitable out there.